So you are in New York right now?
I'm in New York right now, and I'm
All right.
traveling to London on Thursday this week, and I'll
Yeah.
be there through all of November.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
on the move.
Unfortunately, not for December when we are there. I heard that.
Yeah,
And irrespective of that, it's great that we have um, an experimental opportunity now.
sure.
And have you ever taken any official coaching sessions before?
No, I have not.
Okay. All right. All right. Good. Because this will not be the normal typical session, although parts of it will be, but the nature of coaching starts with a build-up of the context. The
Hmm.
context is defined as what the client is wanting to achieve in the coaching
Hmm.
and to set the right foundation for the coaching to happen.
Okay.
And all my explanations already starting will serve the purpose to prepare the right understanding what coaching is without going into a theoretical lecture about it. But
Hmm.
without the understanding, the parameters in your head are not in the place that is required for the coaching to happen, right?
Okay.
Because then people misinterpret coaching as something where they receive advice, where
Hmm.
they receive maybe mentoring, where they receive consulting, which
Yep.
isn't coaching. And the reason why I love coaching so much is because it does not incapacitate the client by telling them, even if the advice is good,
Hmm.
what to do. If I go to a nutritionist, to an expert, and in many other fields, I expect to get the right advice.
Hmm.
In coaching, we are perceiving that the answer of the client for his own challenges is within the client.
Yeah.
And the coaching's purpose is to remove the blocks that separate you from the answers that are already within you.
Hmm. Love it.
Right?
That's why I'm
And
interested as well.
okay, okay, okay. I studied in my own personal journey of my own awakening, so to speak, with masters, great masters. For example, Chitta Krishnamurti. He isn't around with us since 1986 any longer, but he was an Indian guru, not collecting a big audience, although he was world renowned. But he was only teaching through questions, like Socrates did
Hmm.
in Athens. And
Yeah.
when they were asked a question, he fully was able to get the question, but
Hmm.
he also got what has motivated what's going on in the client such that this question is raised,
Yes.
or that the question is a question in the first place.
Hmm.
So consciousness coaching is developing its coaches such that they have an ability to sense, to get the framework out of which they are speaking, out of
Hmm.
which they are seeking coaching, out of which they are stopping them in life. And we listen to the words, of course, of our client.
Hmm.
However, what we are coaching, or what our coaching is directed at, is where the client is speaking from, not what the client is saying.
Right.
So I hear what you're saying, but what I'm really sensing into is what's the background, what's the matrix, what's your mindset out of
Yeah.
which you are saying what you're saying.
Hmm.
Because when I am able to interact with you on the background from where your thinking and your feeling comes from,
Hmm.
and any shift in that background will be a lasting fundamental change in your own matrix. And that's not then on the level of you got a great advice and now you simply need to put it into practice. That's the easy, quick fix, but it doesn't last. People go to Anthony Robbins, receive that kind of advice, brilliant, but then 3-6 months further down the line, because their background hasn't changed, they fall back into the old habits, into the old thinking and feeling, because the platform from where that thinking and feeling came from in the first place hasn't been transformed. And Einstein said that the solutions that we need cannot come from the same level of thinking that created the solutions in the first place.
Right.
Yeah. So we need
that quote on my homepage of my personal website is Albert Einstein's quote. Exactly.
Okay. That's
so you and I are getting along very well here. So
the phenomenon of synchronicity, exactly.
And I was also reading a book called The Righteous Mind last night, which was talking about the difference between someone's intuition and their moral reasoning that comes after it, and that the only way you can really truly start to change someone's the way they perceive the world is through changing their intuition, which requires you to go very deep into their matrix, their framework that you're talking about, and not just trying to tweak the reasoning, because otherwise you haven't changed the base. So it's amazing that now you're talking about this right after I was reading it about 12 hours ago in bed.
Fantastic.
Very cool.
That's really cool. That's really cool. Just on a tech thing, at lunchtime today, so 4 hours ago, the electricity in the village is completely off. So I'm working at the moment off the battery of my laptop, which is perfectly fine, and via cell phone internet connection. So it should be all fine. But if we get disconnected, then it is because of that technological challenge. And then I, of course, will do my best to get back connection as soon as possible. And it may or may not be possible because I don't know the contract I have here with the cell phone. So that said, let's put that aside. But if anything happens now, you know.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Now, I keep in mind that you having this session to also assess whether the resonance is right for you, considering going into consciousness coaching, into the education and achieving the diploma and all the rest of it. So I'm needing to speak a little bit also considering that context so it makes sense to you.
Right.
When we are creating the foundation with a client, then the first session is always about really identifying what is the client really asking for. It's like I'm the taxi driver as a coach and you are the passenger. Yeah, you need to tell me where you want to go.
Yeah.
And for many people, that's a challenge. Yeah, they say they want to be more happy, or they want to have a better communication in their relationship, or they want to feel better about themselves, or something like that. And then we need to break it down to really tangible, measurable goals. It doesn't matter whether these are social goals, professional goals, psychological goals, it doesn't matter, but it needs to be measurable so that the coaching can show a clear ROI. And that is why we are using this cycle page here, where we are in the first session really working on the objectives of the client so that it's really clear. Now, in each coaching session, we are asking again the question, okay, what is it you would like to use the coaching session for today? And of course, it will be then an intermediate, in-between step of the bigger journey towards the summit of the mountain. For this base camp now, for today's coaching session, that's what you are asking for, being coached on, that's what you want to achieve. Okay, clear. When that is really clear, then the coaching can happen.
Yeah.
Without a clarity on that, and clarity goes very deep, and it's too much now to explain exactly that here in the session, the background of it. That's why you come to the coaching education then. It's the clearer that is, which is in our protocol point 4. So you work as a coach with a protocol consisting of 7 steps. And when you are a master, you can drop that. I still personally work with that because I haven't found anything that makes more sense when it comes to the human mind and the emotional energy body and all the rest of it to the coaching. So on step 4, where that is clear, then we move into the coaching. Prior that, step 1, 2, and 3, and the start of a coaching session, step 1 is what we call a consciousness coaching check-in. The check-in is consisting of several questions. The first question I'm going to ask my client always is, how did you feel the last 12 to 18 hours? And if I ask you now, how did you feel the last 12, 18 hours? How would you respond?
I have felt relieved the last 12 to 18 hours because last week I was actually having quite a bit of stress and doubts that came out of nowhere and had me questioning a lot of the projects that I was working on. In the last 18 hours, I've started to reconcile with a lot of those and develop a plan for how I'm going to move forward and regaining my confidence in what I'm working on and why. So I'm feeling good about that.
Good. Fantastic. So that is always an important opportunity also for the client, because many people are not much in touch with their feelings. So if I pick up, your response was great. If I pick up that they are too much in their head but not connecting in how did they feel, then I would ask a little bit around that so that they really connect to, oh, I actually feel empty or frustrated or happy, and relieved is great. Fantastic. Yeah. Next question is your present physical condition, because I want to know where my client is physically. What would you say when I ask you, what is your present physical condition? Without asking for any sharing of the details.
Yeah. Good, not great. I'm a little sore from yesterday, and I haven't been eating all that well while visiting my family here in New York. So I feel a little bit anxious about getting myself back into my typical shape, but otherwise good.
Okay, great. Next question in the check-in is what we call the source energy state. Now, in the beginning of the coaching cycle, this requires an explanation. What is the source energy state? In order to not overload our time we have, I don't give you the full 10-minute awareness creation, as we call it, around the source energy state. I'm just telling you there are 3 options. One is anger, joy, and sadness. These are the 3 characteristics of the source energy state, which is in martial arts the ki, which is in Chinese medicine the qi, which we can call life source, life energy, life force. And when that life force is, like in a baby, fully present without any distortion, then it is joy. Yeah. When it is anger, then it is having a charge which can be beautifully used for creation. That's why in Conscious Living 1, on day 3, the whole day we work with transforming anger into passion. So not trying not to be angry, because that's a wrong conditioning, bad habit in society, because anger is just unconscious life force. So if I'm suppressing anger, I'm suppressing my life force. And therefore I'm only running on 40-50% of my potential energy. So what we are encouraging people is to completely rewire up here, to come to a point where you want to be angry, because now you know you can be conscious and use that. So you drive to work and somebody cuts you, and here comes the trigger, and the finger wants to go up, and you stop yourself and you say, great, thanks for the energy shot. It's like you don't need Red Bull anymore. And And the question now is, okay, this is life force, fantastic. How can I use it now constructively? I have a 10 o'clock meeting where I need to present to the board a new idea. I'm going to put all that energy into the passion of presenting my presentation. And in this moment, you are directing the life force and not suppressing it. So that's the whole philosophy around that. And we are training our clients then by asking, okay, what's your actual current right now? It could have been different an hour ago. What's your current source energy state? And then the client says anger, sadness, or joy.
Yeah.
Sadness is nothing but an effect of suppressed anger, by the way. But
my question there, not to question the system, is fear seems to be missing from that. Would that go into anger or sadness? Because like I was thinking to myself last week when I was like kind of fearful, doubtful, etc. I wasn't angry. I guess I was somewhat sad, but it would be hard for me to put my feeling into one of those buckets.
Sure. And it needs a 10-minute full introduction.
Yeah.
And in Conscious Living 1, you have a full day. Because fear is a mental state. It's caused in the mind by projecting a hypothetical scenario,
right,
which receives an interpretation of resistance. That resistance will be picked up by the brain. The brain is connected to the body. Then you get the symptoms in the body. Yeah, this is the mechanism of fear. And source energy, yeah, is something entirely separated from that.
Okay.
Yeah, and as you can see, there's more to say. Let's honor our experiential get together here.
Sure. No, that just helped me understand it too, because I realized maybe it was coming from a source of anger about something that manifested in my mental processing coming up with fear. So you're even just saying it there, cleared up. So thank you.
Yeah. The next way, the next would be feeling okay. So the overall level of feeling okay. For some people, it's like feeling safe. For others, it's feeling whatever it is for you. It doesn't matter. On a scale from 0 to 100, how would you say is your feeling okay right now?
85. 85.
Okay. Thank you. And I just see our electricity came back.
The lights turned on to your left. Christmas lights.
Exactly. Now I will switch to my Wi-Fi network.
Okay. Sounds good.
If I lose you, I will log in again. Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know how the switch works. I just switch the networks.
I'll just stay on the line regardless.
3. Okay. Good. Seems like we are still connected. Perfect.
Yes.
Smooth one. Okay. Then we have mental state, and then we have level of self-love. So mental state means what state of mind do you have? And here you now can say either there's anxiety or there's excitement or etc. What would be your state of mind at the moment?
Creative, calm.
Okay, level. Yes, creative. Okay. And the last checking question would be level of self-love on a scale from 0 to 100.
90.
Awesome. Fantastic. Now, the second step would then be checking your integrity with regard to the goals you set for yourself in the last session. So the moment we go into session 2 in a coaching cycle, every session is at the end inviting the client to choose particular actions that empower the client throughout the week until the next session in their development. And now I would check on that so that we can assess your level of integrity, because we found out that when a client's integrity level is 80% plus, so that what they said they will do, they did,
Yep.
and it's 80% plus, then the law of attraction is starting to work in their favor and they need less effort to achieve their goals.
Right.
If it's below that, as it is for most people in the beginning of the coaching, then the law of attraction usually is not really showing up, and it's hard work for them, or it requires a lot of discipline to achieve their goals, and we don't want that.
Yep.
Yeah? So by the way our client shows and demonstrates integrity, we as a consciousness coach know pretty accurate how the law of attraction is working in their life.
Okay.
And then we support them with tools to increase their understanding and their passion to be a person of integrity.
Okay.
So that we skip today. Number 3 then in the protocol would simply be any communication the client wants to tell you about last week. So if there's anything, then the client is sharing, this happened and that was great and that was not great, without allowing a lot of time being spent on just storytelling, just the highlights if there is something. And then number 4 would be, what would you like to use the session today for?
Okay.
Then we talk about that.
Great.
Then comes the coaching itself, which is part 5 of the protocol. Remember, there are 7 sections in the protocol.
Yep.
6 would be then the assignments until next week.
Mm-hmm.
And 7 is then the closure of the session, which is also a structured process based on the most empowering way to seal a session, so that the power for the client is really carrying them towards the next level and towards the next coaching session, typically a week from now.
Yep.
So let's do a little bit of what we call speed coaching. Not speed dating, but speed coaching.
Sure.
Okay. Tell me one thing where you, if you have, where you feel stuck in and would like to receive coaching on right now.
I feel stuck in my prioritization of things.
Okay.
I'm an entrepreneur. I'm self-directed and have a lot of interests in my life. So I struggle at times to prioritize and sequence those different interests and projects in a way that is best.
And would you like to receive coaching on that now?
Sure.
Okay. So what is it you would like to achieve with regard to the ability of yourself to prioritize? So it's in alignment with your highest values, I believe.
Yeah. Well, my mind goes to developing a process or a framework for analyzing how to prioritize things, but perhaps even the better area would be focusing on my commitment to projects. So trusting that when I do go through that process of analyzing what to do next and the sequence behind it, that I stick to my commitments better and don't let new things or a busy schedule get in the way of me achieving those commitments and staying on track, which is often what happens to me. So I think between those two things that come to mind, commitment is the primary goal for me through something coaching related.
Okay, there was a lot of information for me now in your short sharing.
Sure.
Which would fill probably the next 3-4 coaching sessions with you, including your body language. The last thing you said is you consolidated in your mind and it came down to commitment.
Yeah.
So remember, we are still now defining on, given the opportunity to receive a coaching now, asking you as a passenger sitting in my taxi, where can I take you? In the framework of us not going into a 8-week coaching cycle, but just right now. So don't let your mind assess whether it's possible or not in a short 10-minute coaching or something like that, but rather give me something that can be coached on. A goal now
that we would talk about just now within the next 10 minutes, not one that's further along. Something related to distractions and the ability to create space to dedicate to deep work or dedicate to accomplishing specific tasks so that I'm not bouncing around from one thing to the next or getting stuck in a string of emails and letting a day go by without committing to a task that I know needs to get done that requires my attention.
Okay. And what would be the ideal outcome of that? So I get what you're saying. What would you like to have as a result with regard to that?
Checking things off my list more often. I have a pretty well documented list of different projects and tasks and that I would like to accomplish. And I think that the more I can find the right type of commitment to my projects and creating time to accomplish them, the more often I will be checking things off that list and making notable progress on my projects.
Great. Now, what concrete action step would allow for exactly that to happen?
It may show up in doing my days differently. And that right now I try to keep things very, it says I'm unstable. Can you still hear me? Yeah.
Yes, I hear you.
I'm very flexible in my schedule. I like to be present with my day and allow inspirations to pop up and follow them, or keep my schedule open to be able to take coffee with someone or whatever it may be. But I think if I was to put down, say, like 2 hours of my day where I have no flexibility around meeting with someone, doing email, whatever, that I know that that period was meant to accomplish like one of, or to make progress against one of, say, 2 or 3 top projects that I have, then that would probably help me stay committed to accomplishing them.
Just imagine you had just completed those 2 hours on any hypothetical day of your life. So those 2 hours you were focused and only doing that, and the 2 hours are complete. How would you feel about yourself?
It cut out there for a second, but your question was, how would I feel after that?
Yes. How would you feel about yourself having spent 2 hours focused on only that, what you said you're going to do in those 2 hours?
I know from limited experience that I would feel very good about that.
Yeah.
In fact, I'd probably go for longer than 2 hours doing that thing, because once I get started, I can really go for it for a while, especially if I know it's important.
Right. So, keeping in mind that this is what you can expect feeling about yourself with all the great energy, you are on a higher vibration level, the law of attraction is delivering on higher levels and all the rest of it. So that's how the door looks once you are looking at the door from this side. Now, at the beginning of the 2 hours, you stand in front of the door. And that door looks different, doesn't it?
does. It's hard to walk through that door sometimes.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So the only motivation that you can give to yourself is to remind yourself how you will feel after the 2 hours. And usually, by my own experience, and for many, many clients, after 3, 4, 5 minutes, it's like with jogging, in the beginning, the first 2, 3 minutes is like, yeah, and then something shifts and you pick up the wave and you're in the zone or whatever you want to call it, and you forget about all of that. The most important thing is to start, to just do it. And the one tool, what we teach our clients and also in conscious living, in the whole work of creative consciousness, is to become a master of doing that step, which is usually not accompanied by motivational feelings. I want those 2 hours. I can't wait until those 2 hours are starting. That's not going to happen, very rarely. It's like, maybe I can do them later, or let me just have a coffee to be prepared for it, or what's in WhatsApp. Oh, yeah. So distractions. Exactly. Yeah. But when you said to yourself, okay, I'm just reminded about Richard Branson. He had the same strategy. He called it the hour of power. And
hour of power.
During a decade of his professional life, he had this hour of power between 11 and 12 every morning. And not the president of the United States, nor the Pope, nobody had access to him. Nobody. Mm-hmm. It was religious. And in that hour of power, he only did what is important, rarely worked on urgencies, except there was an emergency. So he wasn't reacting, he was creating.
Right.
Okay.
Powerful.
Yes, that's why I thought it might be worth sharing it.
Sure.
So let's go back to the one difficulty, which is to have the discipline that you declare loyalty to your own promise when you schedule the next week and you say, okay, these are my hours of power, or whatever you want to call it. It's good to give it a name. It makes it more tangible.
Yeah.
Right? Your creation hour or whatever. To have it there, maybe don't plan the whole week, but the next 2 days, you got to start what feels right for you, but definitely the next day. Let's say you say, okay, it's from 3 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
And then really not allowing life to take you for a spin.
Yeah.
You've probably heard of Murphy's Law. Yeah.
I have.
So then we come to a far wider, complex thing called identity, the ego, trying to remain the old you, coming up with incredible mental, emotional, even physical stuff in order to not allow you to become a new you, and throwing obstacles in your way. That suddenly there's a traffic jam and suddenly the car is not working and suddenly the boss is asking you don't have a boss, but the bank is asking you to return a call immediately. So life gets very creative just for you to not be loyal to your word. That's a phenomenon we can testify quite strongly on.
Yep.
Here it is practicing loyalty, that your word is, if you like the word, sacred.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is transforming our relationship to our promises. In Conscious Living 1, we show people in a long, wonderful transformational process that a promise, there shall be light, or as you used the word already, a commitment, is an entirely different language piece, word, than normal communication. So when you say, I want to become financially independent, that's a communication about an internal state. It has zero power, only informative value. but there's no power in it. But if you say, I will, I promise, you can even feel in your body an energy shift. When people tell me about their dreams, then I listen, and then I ask them, okay, will you accomplish that by the end of 2020?
Yeah.
Then you can see their body language. They immediately, something is going on. It shifts the energy. I said, I'm asking you just if you're willing to make a commitment to have that accomplished by 2020, April. And then comes the stuff. Yes, but da.
Sure. Yeah.
So everything changes when you go into a commitment. And one great part of creative consciousness is to educate people that their word in the beginning was the word abracadabra, means I create as I speak. There is something in the word.
You are killing me right now. That word came up into my life 2 weeks ago.
No.
I won't give you the whole story, but in the most ridiculous circumstance where it was so timely, and now it's become a huge word in the way that I understand myself, because I talk a lot. That's part of the reason why I wanted to get into coaching and the formal training, is to learn better to stop projecting and talking and giving advice and be much more question oriented. But that word really resonated with me, and I haven't heard it mentioned outside of that experience until now in like the last 10 years. So this is crazy.
Wow. All right.
Yeah, just had to say that for a second.
Yeah.
That's great.
Okay, I'm leading you back now into our little coaching.
Yep.
So from what I shared and what you were able to receive and what made sense to you, what can you see that you could decide on that would get you to the next level with regard to prioritizing and creating a space for you where you can be in the action, undistracted with regard to what is important for you creating your life?
Well, I've struggled with this in the past, in that, yeah, 1 second. Yes? Yeah, I'm all good. Thank you. Sorry. Where I've tried scheduling before, like a set time each day, and literally put it on the calendar, versus the trust that as long as I commit to, say, 2 hours a day to do this, that I will find the time in the day. And then that, depending on like my energy levels and what else comes up, that I can eventually find it. And neither has worked for me.
I just wanted to ask you, how did that work?
Yeah, neither has worked. When I went through a phase where I tried to schedule out my day and have, like, within calls and stuff, like have an hour to work on that, 2 hours to work on this, an hour to work on that, which in some ways was helpful, but then it was far too constrictive and didn't allow me to work with my creative whims. So I guess I'd mention that because as a solution, yeah.
You all set, you know where you're going?
Yeah, I'm good.
You know where you're going?
Yeah. I have the address. Thank you. As a solution, I'm not sure where to go next. Like, because I don't think I've fully committed to either option with all of my being, but those are the two that I see, and neither has worked for me.
I appreciate your honesty around that. That helps a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is it possible for you, feeling to that, is it possible for you to maybe reduce the 2 hours to a time frame that feels or that inspires you? That's the word I was looking for. That inspires you to go for it.
Perhaps. The main problem is that a lot of that work that I know I need to accomplish, that's just harder to commit to involves writing, articles, and even longer form fictional type of writing that fits into my work. And I can't do that well if I'm only doing, say, 1 hour a day, because it takes some time to get into it, and then you get in the flow. And if I'm doing it properly, I feel like it should at least be an hour and a half or 2 hours to really do good work.
Okay.
So that's a thing that holds me back from committing to a shorter time frame.
I got it. If you are looking at making a commitment tomorrow, 4 o'clock, 4 to 6. Now, you did it in the past and you said it didn't work, and it doesn't work normally. Either you are a soldier and you do it via discipline, but then you can just, wait until a few days later or a few weeks later. Your discipline is so annoying in the mind that you rather break that commitment than running around with a mind that is torturing you.
Yeah.
That's why it's not working.
Yeah.
So we need now to take a look at what would allow you to be in a way that has the least risk of your mind starting to sabotage you.
Mm-hmm.
And a little pain with the mind is inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
There is no way around. Otherwise, I would just say, hey, here is a solution, or here, buy my pill, throw it, and then you're limitless. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is a journey to redefine who we are from I am, my thoughts and emotions, which is the default way of living. Then your thoughts and emotions are you. And then when you are not feeling tomorrow at 4 o'clock to go for the 2 hours as you scheduled it, then you need to override, suppress the feeling, and then the nightmare is starting.
Right.
To a definition of ourselves and starting to rewire our brain to live as our promise, as our commitment.
Mm-hmm.
That means I am my word rather than I am my thoughts and emotions.
Right.
Now that concept in theory is beautiful, and that concept in practice is absolutely amazing. Problem is our habitual wiring of the brain is so strong that it really requires a whole army of tools and energy to get this 3 pound of mass up here, the 100 billion nerve and brain cells, to create a new synaptic formation that allows you to easily, effortlessly be your word rather than keep your word. The problem is then that by the normal default way of being, people understand what the possibility here is, but they haven't transformed into being the word. They are still stuck in keeping the word, and keeping the word creates so much resistance in the modern mind that it's not working. Yeah, people 100 years ago were in a different mindset. Discipline and all the rest of it was easier back then. But today, with our freedom and all the rest of it, which is quite great, it doesn't work anymore. So we need to actually learn to transform ourselves into being our word, and then being your word means effortless, law of attraction, all the rest of it. So that's not possible in 5 minutes coaching.
Yeah.
That's a bigger journey.
Sure.
I still believe that there's something in you. The Jewish proverb says, from 2 options, choose the third.
That's great.
And the law of creation says, from either or, we go into an as well as. And this needs to be created because it's not available as an option in my mind.
Yeah.
So if you take a moment of reflection right now, is there anything that you can see you could create that wouldn't be the one or the other, which both you tried, but which would be something new, but still targeting the same objective?
Yes, there's a simple one, but otherwise I'll take this as my homework and ponder it for a little longer. The simple one is, I think I could make it into a bit of a ritual the night before to look at my calendar the next day, think about what I have on my plate and in closing of the day that I just had, to identify a project in a period of time in the day that looks to be most prime and open to work on that, so that I can have the flexibility of maybe doing it at different times in any given day. And I can have the flexibility of not feeling like it's something that's blocked off for a project that may not be that relevant given everything else that's going on in my life, but still having something on the calendar so I don't go into the next day just free flowing, hoping that I be my word at some point. So I think
you feel like it.
Yes. So it's a middle ground. I guess it's as well as the both of them to some extent, but I'll also think about any other options as well. But that's very helpful.
Okay. Then I invite you to choose whether you choose to commit to it or not, to do it this way.
I will choose to commit to that.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And unfortunately, I have to get going here because I'm meeting someone in 10 minutes. That's a 10-minute drive away.
Okay.
But this is so helpful and fun to go through with you. And I'm extremely interested in your ethos around coaching and hopefully getting trained myself and everything. So just to walk through it with you was great for me to put some pieces together.
Fantastic. Then I'm not keeping you any longer on the call. We just would then complete that. We don't do it now. And I would love to meet you live in person in one of our next trainings.
Sure.
I really think we are in a great synchronicity together.
Yes, there's a reason why I've been sent here. I need to double check with him, but the family friend who I stay with in London, who's the best friend of my dad's from way back, he was the one who pointed me towards consciousness coaching, and he acts really is this beacon for me. Anything he says in terms of who I should meet or advice, he's like my guru basically, is always pointing me in the right direction. And out of nowhere, he said I needed to meet someone he knew at consciousness coaching. So I will check to see who that person was again now that I'm getting more involved with it. But I know there's a reason why I'm here and talking with you and looking forward to see where it takes us. So I appreciate you
very much.
Yeah.
And have a good meeting. Right.
Thank you. Yeah.
And, thank you, Oideshi, for having administered the call.
Yes.
Arranged it. Thank you very much. I'm signing out.
I hope to see you soon. Thank you again for your time today.
Thank you, Dan. I will communicate with you soon. Take care.
Yes, we'll talk. Sounds good. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Oideshi, you still here?
Yeah, I'm still here, Mark. Thank you
great.
so much for that.
Okay, stop the recording.
Yes.